Hey there, Cyberpunks. Welcome to another Robots Radio Cyberpunk 2077 character build. Today, we're taking on Reinhardt, the classic tank character from Overwatch. And as with many of these other builds that I've done, I'm building them around a character that already exists in order to use that as a jumping off platform. So in order to build out Reinhardt, we're focusing as much as we possibly can on increasing our health and our armor, being able to speed into a situation and hit the enemies over the head with whatever melee weapon we happen to find in the game. So in order to do this, there's a lot that needs to be focused on when it comes to finding the right kind of gear. Melee weapons in the game that are blunt, hammers, bats, things like that, are a bit more rare than, say, even katanas in the game. So you're going to have to poke around and see what you can find. In the gameplay that I'm showing right here, my character is only using a gray bat, but the damage is significant when we go up against some of these thugs. Now imagine that you have yourself an epic or legendary weapon there, and even the items that I have equipped for armor aren't particularly notable. But when you add up all of the perks I'm going to go over in this build, then even with mediocre gear, you have a pretty good layout. Surprise, this is the YouTube-y part of the video where I'm like, hey, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of these builds. Make sure you do that. Give us a thumbs up too and turn on notifications. So let's dive into it. The focus for Reinhardt is primarily on body, of course, athletics, and all of the perks that add to health regeneration, adding extra armor, knocking over enemies, stunning them, keeping yourself from getting knocked down, all of that kind of stuff. And then, of course, giving yourself back as much stamina as possible in order to chain this from one enemy to the next. Of course, we're also going to be looking at Street Brawler, but before we get to that, let's take a look at the other part of our damage mitigation. And that's going to come from the cool ability, specifically Cold Blood. So what you're going to find is that not all of the tank abilities exist within just the body skill line for athletics. A lot of them are also in Cold Blood. Things like increasing your resistance by 5% per stack of Cold Blood, increasing the duration of Cold Blood. Of course, that'll add to more resistance, increasing armor by 20% per stack of Cold Blood. This is actually a bigger increase than what you'll get in something like athletics, where it increases your armor by 10% with steel shell. And on top of that, you can increase this twice. There's immunity to bleeding and poisoning and burn and shock. There's also things like blood swell. When your health reaches 45% max value, the cold blood is automatically activated, which of course increases your armor. All of these things add up together in order to not only mitigate the damage that you're getting, but also increase the damage. When Cold Blood is active, increases crit chance by 10% and critical damage by 25% for Merciless. So you'll definitely want to get that one as well. So that's the tank side of the build. That's the part where we are reducing as much damage as we can. And when we do take damage, we are increasing our regen of health. And you'll see in some of the gameplay here that I can jump between enemies, I can knock them out pretty quickly, and then I can take cover and chain it again to somebody else. You still have to be careful with this build. Tank builds in Cyberpunk 2077 aren't going to be damage sponges. You're not going to be able to just walk slowly up to an enemy while he shoots you with, hundreds of bullets. But you will be able to get in close, move right up on an enemy, smack them around, take cover, move to the next enemy, smack them around. The other side of this build has to do with creating damage, and that's back to the body attribute of Street Brawler. And in Street Brawler, we're going to take everything. We want to do as much damage as we possibly can with our melee weapons. We want to get in there. We want to do strong attacks, maybe lead off with strong attacks, hit him over the head. We're going to add damage to crits for headshots. That works as well. You hit him with a strong attack that gets a multiplier and then hits the enemy over the head. Sometimes you can take him out with one blow. We also want things like Juggernaut, because you're going to come across other enemies with melee weapons and you're going to have to duke it out with them. And that doesn't always mean that you can just swing and hit them like you can when you're running up on somebody with a gun. So we want to increase our armor while we're blocking from other attacks. We also want to make sure that we're stunning enemies, taking them out of the game. Sometimes if you're in the middle of a group of enemies, you can hit multiple people and stun several of them or knock them down and then come back around and hit them again for extra bonus damage using this. So another way to think about this is it's kind of like a Batman build. If you were to think of it like that, you're going to be reducing damage that you take and adding more damage to the enemy. Now, in order to hit the 81 perk points that I have currently in this build, we can't just rely on leveling up to level 50 and putting 20 in body and putting 20 in cool and upgrading these specific areas here. We need to build out some of the other trees. So strangely enough, I've gone intelligence in order to build that out and breach protocol, because you can do this every time you come up across on any enemies at all. You can breach them, you can breach a system, and over time you can actually increase this stat, which will unlock the extra perk points that you need in order to put in the other trees. That doesn't mean that we're going to use any in this tree. You could if you wanted to, but we're not going to really use any in this tree. The other thing we're going to do is put 8 attributes in tech ability and level up our crafting a bit. That's again another thing that you can be contributing to as you pick up items and you break them down, or you craft extra whatever in order to just upgrade that ability in order to get the extra perk points that we need for the build. So that's the basis of it. The most important things to be upgrading as you level are athletics and street brawler. Focus on body first. Level that up as much as you can. While you're fighting things, your athletics and your street brawler perks will go up. The next most important thing is cold blood. Make sure you put some points into some of these initial sections so that these things proc while you're taking damage, and then cold blood will start upgrading as well. And then while you're doing all that, make sure that you're breaching stuff and that you're breaking things down for crafting so you can get all the perk points you need. So that creates our build for today. Make sure that you don't miss out on any of these builds. I have builds for a whole bunch of different styles of play based around popular characters, and I'm going to continue to put more out. And make sure you check out the Cyberpunk Lorecast. We talk about this game every week on this channel and on podcatchers everywhere. And join us on twitch.tv/robotsradio for more. Talk to you guys later.